What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Gary, and in this episode of Coding with the Fours, we're going to find out what Salesforce actually is and what it's like actually being a developer on the Salesforce platform. All right, everybody, welcome to the first episode of this Apex Masterclass tutorial series. In this episode, I want to go over what Salesforce is and what your life as a developer would be like if you became a developer on the Salesforce platform, so that before you waste all your time, watching these videos and doing all this work trying to get a job in this industry, that kind of anyway what you're getting yourself into, right? So you don't put yourself in a position that you really hate or you don't want to be in, right? I think that's important. But before we get into that, make sure if you actually enjoy this video to like it, because when you do like this video, it helps it get out to more people just like yourself who want to learn about this stuff for free too. So if you enjoy the video, like it. That way everyone else out there can benefit from it as well. Now, let's get back to the video. So, let's figure that out. First thing that we'll go over is what is Salesforce, right? Lots of people out there might have heard of Salesforce and might have heard that developer careers in Salesforce pay money, but they have absolutely no idea what Salesforce actually is. And it's very important. No matter how much money you get paid, you will find that work sucks if you don't enjoy it. So let's figure out what Salesforce is. Salesforce, as it describes itself, is a CRM platform. It's a customer relationship management platform, and they're here to help with marketing, sales, commerce, service, and IT teams to work as one from anywhere so that they can keep their customers happy everywhere. And they do state that Salesforce is currently the #1 CRM platform. But it's worth noting that if you're getting into this career banking on it staying that way, who knows? I hope, for my own career's sake, that it does, because I actually enjoy my job as a developer on this platform, and I enjoy the platform in general. But in the past, there were other CRMs that were more successful that it overtook, like Siebel or Oracle or whatever else, SAP. And as you can see, back in 2015 when I started, if you can even see these tables, the market share for CRM was 19.7%. But still today, it's only at 19.8%. And that number has gone up and down and up and down. And in all likelihood, Salesforce will remain here for a very long time. But if you're just getting into this career, just because it's the #1 CRM, and just because you think you'll make some decent money, I would probably turn everything off right now and figure out a different career path, because who knows whether it will stay that way, right? And who knows, if you don't enjoy developing or this platform especially, then there are plenty of other jobs in the sea. I'll say it that way. So at the risk of, making you shy away from it, let's just keep that in mind, what it is, and that if you're going off it being #1, don't bank on that being forever. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. Okay, next thing. As a developer on this platform, what you can expect to do is build the kind of systems that they describe right here. Marketing, sales, commerce, service, and IT teams work. IT teams work is a little iffy. I don't get that one very much. But marketing, sales, commerce, service, these are the central focus of virtually everything that you will build. For the most part, there are exceptions to that rule, but most of the things that you build on the Salesforce platform are going to fall in one of those categories, right? I've worked on 50 projects on over 20 clients, and I can tell you the vast majority of them fell in those categories: commerce, marketing, sales, or service, as in a service desk or a help desk, whatever. What you can expect to build are a mixture of setting up configuration, point and click administration stuff, and custom development for those areas of the business world, right? I've built very large custom marketing applications to sit on top of Salesforce or to be within a specific organization's instance. I've built extremely customized Sales Cloud instances, extremely customized Commerce instance, and extremely customized Service Cloud instance. And essentially, the goal of all of it is to typically take, someone's older platform or underperforming platform, whatever it is, and upgrade it using Salesforce and build it fast. I want to emphasize that because I'll get back to it, but that's how Salesforce markets itself. So essentially, the goal of virtually everything I've built is to make your, make a team, a marketing team, a sales team, a service team's day-to-day job easier, faster, and provide them better analytics into what they're doing every day and how to get better at what they're doing every day. Now, going back to what I said earlier, when people move to Salesforce, their expectation is to move fast. And the reason for that is really twofold. One, Salesforce marketing markets itself as a fast-to-market tool. And two, Salesforce gives you a massive shell to make it easy as a developer, or easier as a developer, to get things and custom functionality out the door faster. If I pull up one of my Salesforce orgs over here, one of my dev orgs, you can kind of see what I'm talking about with the whole shell that you get, right? There's a huge administrative section, which I will say, if you're going to be a good developer, you do have to know a lot of. This course does not really go over an enormous amount of the administration side. I'll have another course later that does go over the administration aspect of Salesforce that is critical for developers to know anyway. But it is important that you understand the administrative side of things in Salesforce, because in the administration area of Salesforce, that's where you build declaratively your databases, your database tables rather, the fields or the columns for your database, and it's where you set up an enormous amount of other stuff too that you would otherwise have to, develop, right? So there's an enormous amount of things that you do have to know as a developer that are administrative based. And I will say, while some people out there might disagree with me, and I fully respect it because everybody is different, as someone who used to work as a Java developer and a PHP developer, what I can tell you that I like about Salesforce is it cuts out all the garbage that I didn't particularly love doing as a developer and allows me to just focus on writing code, right? Building UIs that are custom, or building a new Experience Cloud site, or building out, some batch job, or who knows, a bunch of other stuff, right? So I have kind of enjoyed transitioning to the Salesforce platform because I really feel like I get to focus on the aspects of development that I enjoyed, which, to be quite honest with you, are mostly the more complex integrations with other systems and really complicated user interfaces, and also creating, abstract reusable components to place everywhere, right? So I've really enjoyed the fact that that's kind of what I get to focus on as a developer on the platform, as opposed to some of the more remedial tasks like setting up a server, or taking hours setting up your database after you've designed it. You still do have to have good, table design and architecture in Salesforce. That's still pretty critical. But anyway, I'm getting a little off topic here. As a developer on the platform, because of this huge shell that you have, being able to set up your database declaratively, being able to set up things like page layouts, how people can view your records in Salesforce, all of this stuff declaratively. You can go get things done much faster, and you cut out an enormous amount of time that you would otherwise spend, building all this stuff on whatever tech stack that you built it on, right? So Salesforce, people who want to implement Salesforce instances, want to stand up a new Salesforce environment, they do expect it to be quicker. But what I will say is, as long as you have somebody who is a good architect estimating the work, even though the timelines are quicker, it's normally not that big of a deal because of how much you have at your disposal that's already pre-built for you, courtesy of Salesforce themselves, right? Another thing that I want to point out are a few misconceptions about being a Salesforce developer. And they're mostly around things that you see online about how, there's not very much code to write as a Salesforce developer, or you're using outdated languages, or, tons of other things. Like there's not very much customizability, or there's not very much this or that. I'll say historically those things were true, and some of them still today are kind of true, and I want to go over them. So one of the most important things to note is that Salesforce, back when I started, didn't have very much IDE support. And you might not know what that is, but if you don't know what an IDE is, in a subsequent video in this tutorial series, you'll find out what I mean. I'm in one right now called IntelliJ. Back in the day, there was not very much IDE support. These days, there's an enormous amount of IDE support. Second thing is that there's a misconception, I think, that you can't do source-driven development in Salesforce, which is a big deal for a lot of developers. That is also not true these days. You can definitely do source-driven development through what are referred to as scratch orgs and unlock packages, and just in general, you can set up, things on things to get that done, right? You don't even have to use either of those, and you can still use source-driven development. The third thing, is you do, in many respects, use an outdated language in Apex, right? Apex is like Java, I don't know, 6-7 years ago at this point, maybe even longer than that. What I will say is Apex is a good language. It has most of what you would ever need, but it lacks some of the more advanced capabilities that you will find in a language like C# or Java, and sometimes it can be very frustrating. There are open source repos out there that allow you to essentially be able to replicate some of those things in this language, but it can be frustrating. There is no real reflection in Apex. There are, again, open source packages that will allow you to kind of mimic what reflection is like in other languages, but Apex is a bit of an outdated language, and it is a little bit frustrating. There have also been a lot of people who have told me, well, you don't get to work with, modern front-end technologies. Well, I will say up until 2 years ago, that was basically true. These days with Lightning Web Components, you can do pretty much all the kind of modern, UI front-end development that you're used to other places. That said, there are some drawbacks as a Salesforce developer because of what is called Lightning Locker Service, and a handful of other things. So, if you're hoping to use TypeScript in Salesforce, it's not going to work out for you. You can use it, but it's severely hampered by a number of things. If you're hoping to use some of the best JavaScript libraries out there, You can, but it will take you an enormous amount of time often to adapt them to be able to work with Lightning Locker Service. I'm not going to get into Lightning Locker Service in this episode, but just know if you're building, a UI or doing some, custom development, you might have trouble importing packages and whatnot. So there's an enormous amount that you can do as a developer. There's tons. I mean, I've developed hundreds and hundreds of custom applications on this platform, but it does occasionally become frustrating that there are so many things that aren't available because of the limitations of the platform. That said, it's okay because you can always extend it outward to something like, I know people will say, oh, of course you can, but you can always leverage something like AWS and set something up over there to create some of the more advanced stuff and then pipe that into Salesforce because Salesforce gives you that option. So there really is no bounds to what you can produce inside Salesforce. It's just that occasionally, if you get something really, really complicated that Salesforce won't support for one reason or another, you might have to go off platform, build it, and then pipe it in. So yeah, it's a fun, interesting game to play there from time to time. So it's important to go over those things. Yes, in Apex you do, in my opinion, work with somewhat of an outdated language that is slowly but surely getting updates and coming up to speed. And you do have some limitations when you're building your UIs, but you can get around those because Salesforce does give you the ability to bring in outside applications and place them in your instance. So, yeah. What else is there to say about Salesforce as a developer? What I can tell you is, if you don't enjoy, building marketing, sales, commerce, service applications, or maybe if you're lucky, health cloud or financial cloud, I actually would say maybe unlucky, then you might not have the best time as a developer on this platform. But what I can tell you is, for me, for the 7 years that I've done this and the thousands and thousands of hours that I've put into it, it has been much better than I thought it was going to be. And it's primarily because I get to focus on building, what I think is the fun stuff, right? If you enjoy building UIs, if you enjoy, writing service-based class logic, stuff along those lines, then you'll probably have a lot of fun as a Salesforce developer. And another thing I will say is, last thing I suppose, is people have a misconception that if you're a developer on this platform, you're mostly an admin. Like, you're going to go in here and you're going to point and click all day and you're never going to write any code. Well, if my channel is any indication at all, it's simply not true. As a developer on the platform, you're expected to code and code every single day. There has basically been 0 days out of the full 7 years that I've worked in Salesforce that I have not produced some code. Right? Have I done some admin stuff? Sure. But I will say I've done much less admin stuff than I have done code. Right? So if you're a developer on this platform and you really try to make a career out of the development side of things, not the admin side of things, you will probably in all likelihood end up like myself, where you code every single day and there are no exceptions there. Right? So, yeah, hopefully that maybe clears up a handful of things, what you're getting yourself into, why you should consider being a Salesforce developer, what you'll do day to day, all that kind of stuff, and the speed at which you're expected to deliver things as it varies from other tech stacks out there in the world. So hopefully that helps clear a few things up. Hopefully it didn't scare too many people off. What I will tell you is I think by the end of this course, you'll find that there's an enormous amount of things you can build on this platform, and there's so many cool things that you can do on it that it's well worth your time. And last but not least, in my opinion, it pays pretty well. It pays better than it was when I was a Java developer and a PHP developer. And I think you can, Google that and find out that the average pay is pretty exceptional. But that said, pay is not everything. So make sure you'll at least, hopefully, kind of enjoy it before you go down this path. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next episode of this Apex Masterclass series, because there is tons and tons more that we'll be able to do and build together, and it'll be a lot of fun. So I will see you then.